We're going live.
How exciting. Okay, wait a minute. Should we sing the intro? Okay, here's how it's going to work. I'm going to say.
Okay, Okay, so for our friends on LinkedIn, you can't see us right now, but we're coming to you. So we'll get there. It'll be fine. Okay, so let's sing. Do you want me to do the guitar introduction?
Yeah, I'm going to be Daryl and I'm going to cue you. So,
okay.
This is a Defocus Media production. I'm astonished. Okay.
I've been working on my mouth guitar. Continue. Sorry, this is your time.
I don't even remember the name of our podcast. This is Lunch Date with Rachel and Kate, a Defocus Media production. I'm Rachel.
And I am Kate. Guys, we're
live.
This is like, I feel like it's Saturday Night Live. Like, it's New York. It's Wichita, Kansas, and it's Saturday night, but it's a Thursday night. It's just crazy. Usually you don't see our faces, but you just hear our crazy antics. But we're coming live tonight.
Yeah. Kate, it's good to see your face.
It's so good to see your face. It's kind of nice because also I can be here without a mask on and I can see your full face.
Does it look like I'm petting you?
I was curious of what you were doing, and so I just wasn't sure. OB said we pulled off our introduction perfectly.
Thank you so much. For you, we prepared.
Yeah, we're trying here. So yeah, it's just kind of like cool to see each other's faces, even though we're far away and we can't travel and see each other and do all these things. So it's kind of nice to be together again. Yeah. And thank you for the pets. My kitty. Oh, how was my day? It was good. I had a slow morning in clinic. I only had 2 patients, but that's okay. They were both great. Nice. I'm creating some new videos for my office. We're slowly but surely kind of like testing out some new things for our marketing / social media presence. And so we were talking back to school eye exams today. And so I recorded a bunch of stuff and used my trial lens set for the first time in a long time. So yeah, that's what I did.
You marketing guru. How about you? They're lucky. Me? I made a kid cry. All in a day's work.
Okay, yeah, tell me more.
Oh no, he just didn't want eye drops in, but he got them and he was a total trooper and he got glasses and it was cute. And
I love that.
It was pretty good. It was a good day,
So glad. I will tell you so my trick for getting drops in kiddos' eyes is I tell them that I ask them what animal they want to be turned into. And I was like, how about a tiger or a lion? And they're like, yes. It only works pretty much 8 and under. Above 8, they're like, whatever. And I say, okay, when I turn you into this tiger or lion, it'll burn a little bit, but that's okay. That's how you're getting turned into a tiger or a lion. And so when that hurts a little bit, you roar as loud as you can. And they say, and so then they do.
Me on this journey, Kate. I'm about to be a tiger.
And so then they do. And they, so here's the thing. So I put the drops in, they burn, their eyes burn, and they go, roar! And so then they kind of get their burning out, and then they don't care about the burning. They're just like, thought it was cool that they could roar in an office.
Oh, that's a good idea. I pretty much just say, close your eyes and count to 20, and I leave the drops on their eyelids. But this kid was like, moisture, no! So he wasn't into it.
He's not about it. He's like, I know COVID. Yeah. I'm not supposed to have any moisture on me.
No.
And you're like, I understand. So, okay. So on a traditional Lunch Date with Rachel and Kate episode, we talk about what's for lunch because that's what we do. And if you haven't joined with us before, you probably don't know our antics as well. And that's okay. But what we discuss is a long-winded analogy of how the food relates to our topic today. So,
and this is kind of behind the curtain because people might not know that we're not actually eating lunch. I really don't want to spoil this for everybody, but like it's showbiz magic. This is where the magic happens. So, what's on the menu, Kate?
This is a great question. So, on the menu today is fondue.
I love fondue.
We're doing fondue because America is a melting pot, and at the melting pot, you get fondue.
Oh my gosh.
And I don't care if it's cheese or chocolate. We can do both as long as there's marshmallows involved. Oh, I wouldn't put the marshmallows in the cheese, but still tasty. Still tasty. So this kind of gets us right straight into our topic.
Know that right before I tried to be a manager at the Melting Pot. Because I didn't, that's why I am here today.
I mean, I don't know if it was a wise career choice. I think being a manager of a melting pot is truly one of a kind as well. But I like that you became an optometrist because now we're friends and you're like rocking the world. So I think it's a win.
Cheese.
That is a major bummer. I'll always vote for more cheese and chocolate. So today we are talking about discussing politics in the workplace. I don't know if y'all are like me, but I am, well, Rachel, I know you're like me, but I'm a pretty big activist. I'm gonna go out and I'm gonna talk about Black Lives Matter because they do, and I'm gonna talk about how you should wear a mask, and I'm gonna try to debunk conspiracy theories, and I'm gonna try to make the world a better place for all people. And so usually I speak more on topics that are a little more controversial than the average person. So with that, sometimes at work things get a little dicey.
Yeah.
And that's okay.
Get a little awkward.
Yeah, but as my mom calls me, she says I'm the queen of awkward. So she is very comfortable with, she says you handle awkward conversations really well. And I say, thank you, because I don't. I'm always like, ooh, can't believe I said this. So let's first talk about talking politics with patients.
Yeah. That gets hard because the patients often, it's like almost impossible to avoid now that we're wearing masks. The patients bring it up all the time. Like here is one of the things that I always hear is like, how are you guys doing wearing those all day long? I can't imagine. Do you think this is real? That kind of thing. Like,
and
you're think this is necessary?
Yeah, that's always the hardest moment because especially when we started, when we started having patients wear masks when we shut down. So before we shut down, I started wearing a mask 3 days before we shut down. I started wearing a mask because for me, I was like, okay, well, if it's spread through respiratory droplets, it's a better protection than nothing. So I started wearing a mask and nobody questioned me, which was nice because I think everybody was just like, we don't know what's going on. But now that we've required it, I know in most optometry offices, I think if not all, like it's kind of crazy if an optometry office doesn't require a mask, then that's when, so patients at first were like, what?
Yeah.
No, I'm coming when there's no masks. And I was like, okay.
Enjoy your expired contacts.
Yeah, like I can't.
It's a long haul.
Yeah.
So what's the deal with Wichita?
So
right now, because it seems to be changing a lot.
So yes, so in Kansas, how things work, because the governor allowed herself to have her mandates and her executive orders censored. So what that means is that she allows each county and city to vote individually of what they would like to do. So if the state, and as well as so it first starts with the state legislature, and if they pass it, then that's law. But if not, then it goes down to the counties. And then if the county doesn't pass it, it goes down to the city. So, and then from there, it go neighborhoods, townships, all of those things. So we had a state mandate, but then our county didn't pass it. But then our county health director mandated it, and he hasn't censored himself. So his mandates are truth and law. So everybody has to wear masks in indoor spaces. And at first it was like 50-50, even with the mandate. And I was like, are you kidding me? And then they threatened to shut down bars. And then all of a sudden everybody was like on the game. So,
Yeah.
yeah. So I was like, okay, well, whatever works. Like if the threat of your bars closing work, I mean, I like to enjoy to go out, and we are comfortable eating outside.
Yeah.
But otherwise we don't really
Okay.
go out to eat at all or go to a bar.
Yeah, we have a mask mandate here, and I'm really grateful for it, but patients have mixed feelings about it. Like, really, in our newspaper, they're saying, like, the governor's a dictator, but, like, no. But, I mean, whatever. Like, you have to have a mask to come into our building, but that doesn't mean patients aren't just like, I saw someone today standing there taking her mask down to talk. Someone told her to put it back up, and she screamed. And it was not cool.
That's not cool.
Saw herself out, which is, the right path.
We fortunately, so when we started all the new COVID precautions, we sent out a letter to all our patients because they all need to do OptiMap as well. And so I don't know if the letter preemptively, and then we call them, the day ahead of time. Preemptively, I don't know if that made a huge difference for us, or if there was other things that but we haven't had as much pushback as I once thought. One guy said, I mean, every once in a while I'll have a patient that's like, well, I don't want to wear it. So I'm like, okay, they have to call when they arrive. And so we're like, okay, wear your mask. And if they're like, well, I don't want to wear it, then they're like, well, then don't come in. So, but sometimes I have some patients that are like, well, this is, I don't think this is working. I don't know how much this actually does. And I feel like as their doctor, I have a little bit more control on medically speaking wise, because I understand medical journals better than than a lot of people in the general public. Like we all do, because like we've had to read them like a lot. And then I feel like we're up to date on just like how the body works a little bit better. I sometimes forget that patients really don't know. Sometimes I forget about that. So, I've taken that as an opportunity to say, well, for us and what I've read and what I know, this is the best way that we can shut things down. And I have a friend that lives in the Czech Republic, and they are mask free now because their cases are so low because they were mask mandated for so long. So I can say, from examples from other countries, I've gotten to see some similar results. So I'm hoping that we can go in the same direction. But then I always get to say, my job is to keep you healthy and keep you around as long as possible. And I say, if this can help with it, that's great. That's what I want to do.
Yeah. For me, I kind of read the patient, and if they seem like they're trying to get me to talk trash about it or like try and get them to commiserate with them, I'll usually say something like, oh, yeah, I hate wearing them, but I think it's for the best. I'm glad we're doing it, but it's really hot under here. Like, I'll just really complain. But like, really, I think it's hot and I'm getting acne, but like, whatever, I think we should be wearing them. But other people, there are some people who have to wear masks all day for their jobs, and they'll be like, how are you holding up? And I'll say, just like anybody else, it's a change, but it's good that we're doing it.
Yeah. I think that's been I think sometimes it's just a moment of comfort where I never thought like a public health movement would be so political like this. I never thought about that before.
It's like that.
Yeah. And so but we've had a lot of good things where I try to shut things down early, and especially I could always make a fog joke. Like I always make a fog joke. Like, oh yeah, I know, me too. The fog with the glasses, I get it.
Yeah.
So I usually can
willing to commiserate, but like landing on the side of science.
Like, no, this is right. So I know we had a little bit about like contact lenses and things. I personally haven't had any patients reach out to me about the contact lens rule or anything of that nature. I have had one. I've had to have one. And it was my first week on the job.
Oh.
And the mom called me and said, I need my son's contact lens prescription. Not even my patient. Don't even know what's going on. And I say, well, he's never been fitted for contact lenses. So we can't release a contact. He's never been fitted for contact lenses. Yeah. We're not able to release a prescription for it. She goes, well, I'm not paying for this. This kid's dad's unemployed and we can't afford these things, and he cannot wear glasses. And I was like, Oh, man.
Oh no.
Hate that. So I said, "No, I agree, but, to be able to release that contact lens prescription, I need to have a fit and a follow-up to be sure that everything's working really well." And I said, "And so that includes teaching them to the proper procedures," kinda went through all of that jazz. She's like,
Mhm.
"I'll teach them. Don't I'll do that all, and then you can just check it." And I said, "Unfortunately, that's not how we do things here. You are welcome to find a place that does, and we'll get you great information for it." Um, and so I said, "But I can't just, like, send you 'em out with contacts." I was
No.
like, "I'm not gonna do that." And she goes, "I read the contact lens rule." And I was like, "Yes."
No. Oh
And
my
this is,
God.
like, my first week of practice. So, with this first week, I just took the Kansas law exam. So,
Yeah.
I know Kansas law the best ever at this moment. And I said, "Actually, let me get legal with you," and, like, had that, and that's the only experience I've ever had where people have gotten upset about contact lenses or anything.
Well, I wonder what's going to be happening in September when the new one comes out and we're all
Mhm,
supposed to be having documentation and like
mhm,
signing, having the patient sign and everything. And I feel like that's going to give the opportunity for, like, if you're in the AOA, I mean, I don't know what the AOA stance is going to end up being on this. If they want us to be talking to our patients about what an inconvenience it is, or if they're going to want us to just like go on with life. Cause like I would normally never bring up something like that. I would
mhm.
be
Oh,
like,
totally.
sign the paper, get out, you know?
Yeah, exactly. I've seen asking doctors to call and
Yeah.
make comments to the FTC and their senators and congressmen and women, and I've done that, but I haven't had any kind of hints of what if they want us to talk to
I
patients.
don't
I think
think they
that'll be an
will.
interesting thing
Yeah, because
to
I
find
know they
out.
like for people to be informed, but
Mhm. Yeah. No,
I don't
I don't
know.
know. I think that'll be an
Yeah, well, I
interesting
guess
topic
we'll just wait and
next.
see.
Yeah. Okay, so next, let's get down to the big one. We just learned Kamala Harris is the VP pick for Joe Biden. We are super pumped. Another woman on another ticket. We're really excited for this. Um, no malarkey. And so so this can pop up where somebody is like, "So who you voting for?
Yeah.
Did you hear? Did you see? Did you see
Yeah.
this? Did you hear this?"
Hmm. I
And that's an
fell
awesome moment.
into a trap like this. I was just trying to talk about a subconjunctival hemorrhage with this patient. And it was right after Joe Biden had got a subconjunctival hemorrhage during a debate. And it was like big in the news, but maybe it was only big in the news that I pay attention to and not big in the news that this patient pays attention to. And I mentioned,
Mhm.
did you see that so and so got a conjunctival hemorrhage? And she was like, I don't watch that. No, I wouldn't be watching the Democratic debate. No. And I was like, why did I say anything, Rachel? Stop.
You're like, that's always the hardest is when you're like, "Okay, let me make this clinically relevant to your
Yeah.
life."
Yeah. I wasn't even trying to be political. I was just trying to be like, your eye looks like this guy's eye.
Yeah. And you're
Your
like,
eye's
"Oh,
famous. Yeah.
yeah, you could be cool right now." No, that's always hard. I did have a patient once where we started talking about the civil rights, not civil rights, the Civil War.
Close.
Yeah, I know, I'm so sorry. The Civil
No.
War monuments
Yeah.
because it got into more. And he goes, "So where do you stand on this?" And he goes,
Been
I
there.
view one way and my wife views another." And she's in there with him, and
Oh
he's
gosh.
OB with another beautiful comment. There are so OB. Oh my gosh. Okay, so while we're here, I just read the book Born a Crime by Trevor Noah, and I have learned so much about South Africa. And I
Mhm.
have learned about the apartheids, and I've learned so much. So I understand OB. I do. I see the similarities. There is so much similarities. Um, so uh so this patient was like, "So what do you think we should do with the Civil War monuments?" He's like, "I think we should keep them up because we need to remember history." And then his wife is like, "You're an idiot, like you're the
Oh,
dumbest person alive," and like just like started going at him. And I was like, no, I'm not in a marital argument here. No, I'm
no.
not in the deciding vote. I said, "Well, my husband's a history teacher, so I've heard a lot about history, and I have a really deep passion on making sure people feel valued in our society. And so for me, I'll just take these opinions in, and I'll learn more." And I said, I just encourage you to do the same because I was like, "Of course we should tear them down, but like
Yeah.
I can't do this. I
Yeah.
live in conservative Kansas. I
Yeah.
can't, like, there's a lot of things where I just can't say, and that's okay,
Mhm. It's
but
hard.
mhm, it's hard, and
Yeah.
especially when you like, when I care so much for my patients and I want them to care equally well, that's
Mhm.
important. That's
Yeah.
super important to me.
Mhm.
And so I think that's where, sometimes I feel like patients also are like, "She seems so relatable, she seems so cool,
Yeah.
I would like to talk to her about these really interesting subjects."
Yeah.
And so, I mean, I appreciate it, but at the same time, not
I used to
sometimes.
get that a lot in my last rotation, and my big move when somebody would start saying something I disagreed with was, "This
Mhm.
test works really well if you keep your teeth together."
Ooh, that's a good one.
Yeah, yeah.
So, um, I think that makes a lot of sense.
Mhm.
This test needs you to keep your teeth together because you really can't move your mouth down. And that
Yeah,
sounds
you
wrong.
really can't tell me anything about politics right now.
Um, so we, so talking about politics, the
Yeah.
election, I think
Okay.
another really great way when a patient brings up politics in the office is say, "Oh, I'm so excited for you to vote on November 3rd. I'm so
Yes.
excited for you to vote about that on November 3rd." Um, because I think that gives you an opportunity to really empower them to feel like their voice is heard and their voice is empowered, as
Mhm.
well as, it just really gets you to say, "Hey, not here, but your opinion matters,
Mhm.
but it's not
Yeah.
here in this room,"
Yeah.
you know?
Exactly. That's good. And that's one thing that's hard for me is when patients tell a joke. I have a really strong laugh reflex because I hate to see people flop just as like a performer. Like I can't, ooh, I hate it. But
Mhm.
sometimes like you just can't laugh at like an inappropriate joke. It's
Yeah.
just like sometimes I say this to a lot of patients, but sometimes you're just like, all right, get out of here. Just like I would normally say that just like joking, but like this time I mean it.
That's what I'm not joking about.
Yeah.
And I think that's the hard thing too, is like I want my patients to know that they're important to me, even if we have differing political views, and that
Mhm.
their care is going to mean so much to me regardless.
Yeah.
So, I think that's where I wanna make sure that they feel valued, and so sometimes I'm like, I wanna be like, "Yeah, ha, ha, ha," and just, like, agree
Yeah.
with them, when really I don't need to.
Yeah, and there's some patients where you're gonna have a relationship with them. Like, for example, you're following them to figure out if they have glaucoma or not. Like, you're gonna see
Mhm,
them every months for a little while. And it's
mhm,
like, I can't let this be our relationship. I can't start us off on the foot where these jokes are okay, or where these comments are okay, or where I feel like personally offended. Won't do
mhm.
it.
Yeah,
No, not today. You
yeah,
gotta set boundaries. Zip it. Keep
exactly.
it
So it's,
shut.
I think and I believe in vulnerability. I mean, we're both big Brene Brown people, but I struggle. I with my patients, I have to keep a little bit less vulnerability because I need to keep a different relationship with them.
Mm,
So with my peers and we'll go back and we'll talk about this in a bit, but with peers at work, it's a little bit different. But with my patients, I kind of keep those walls up a little bit and do a little
mhm.
less vulnerability and a little bit more boundary setting,
Yeah.
because it's important in those situations. So, okay, we talked about bad jokes.
Yep.
This one is a little bit hard because, well, it has been interesting, is, protests. How do we
Oh, a big thing that I'm hearing here, just like reading the comments on my local newspaper, is people saying, like, well, COVID doesn't spread during protests. Like, have you been hearing that?
Yeah, so,
It's just like,
yeah,
people
just like
at the
people saying
protests
like,
were mostly masked.
well yeah, it's like, "Well, COVID, we all have to wear masks, we all have to do these things, we all have to stay inside, except if you're gonna go protest."
Exactly. Exactly. That's what they're saying here, too.
And I guess for me,
Yeah.
I
It's like,
can
we
always
weren't
if
at
it's a
the protests
coworker or something.
were.
Yeah,
They
if
just,
it's a coworker, I'm gonna dip my toes into this a little, but
mm,
the coworker side rather than the patient side. But when it's a coworker side, I always say, well, when I went to a protest, I noticed everybody wearing masks. And
yeah.
everybody there was wearing masks, and then the organizers were handing out masks to people that weren't wearing them because they wanted everybody to stay safe.
Yeah.
So I said I can't speak to other places, but I can speak to the one that I went to.
That's good. That's really good.
And so that way they know that like I'm one of them, and I think sometimes that humanizes a protest and humanizes things because
Yeah.
they don't think.
They're not like Dr. Ham was looting. No,
Mhm.
they're like Dr. Ham was doing something respectful.
Yeah, exactly, and so it's less about it humanizes a lot of things because it's easy to dehumanize somebody that you don't know and that you just see and you're like, this is the action of all, like to put an
Yeah.
always or an all onto it. But with patients, I don't really talk about it. I say, well, um, I just kind of I just try to kind of pretty much do the teeth together thing. Being
It
like,
worked.
well, I said each person has the opportunity to share their voice, and I'm glad they're using it. But can you read those letters out there for me? That is my favorite. Can you read those letters there for me? Are those letters coming in clear?
Yeah.
Yeah, 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 yeah. Those letters are good.
You
Or
got
can you
places
find
to
my ear?
be.
Can
Let's
you find
get
my
this
ear out
out.
here?
Yeah.
Huh?
Yeah, I like to say, you got places to be. Let's get this exam moving. Let's
Yes.
get it going. You're
Yeah.
a person with places to go.
Exactly. Exactly. So I try to do more. Try to give opportunities for an out to kind of end the conversation because sometimes I think people. I've done this before where you get into a conversation and you're like, oh, this has like one place to go and I don't know how to leave it. So yeah,
Yeah.
that's what I struggle with.
So what
Um,
about somebody's like talking your language? Like you want to reinforce the things they're saying. I
yeah.
had an
I
example
just
of
wanted to share this from Aiko. Um, she's like, yeah, she's been, all of them are decently distanced outdoors with masks, hand sanitizers, and everything. And yeah, there isn't a correlation. We haven't found anything here in Kansas. In fact, it's when the bars opened, we had a correlation. And when we had some other places open, we had a correlation, but not with the protests. So I agree. There is no, we're research minded people, and there is no direct correlation. We need to
yeah.
find those p values, and those p values. Um, but no, I agree. I think it's an
Oh, yeah.
opportunity.
I had a patient recently who, like, this was an example of it. He recently had to make a really hard decision. He was a school administrator, and it was like his first year being the administrator, and he had to make the decision to do online. And he was like, I look like a jerk. I feel terrible, but there was no way to do it safely. And I was just like, no, you made the right decision. I think that's great. You used the information that you had. This is a very
Mhm,
like it was a hard decision, but you made it. Now
mhm.
keep those teeth together and let's read some letters. No,
Yeah,
I didn't.
it's it is really hard.
Mhm.
I had a patient the other day that was just like, I think this is good, and I think this is good, and I think this is
Yeah.
good, and I think this is good. And I was like, yes, I agree. 100% with everything that you've ever said.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so, but trying to say, I still need to keep a distance between us. So a lot of
Yeah.
times I say, I was like, I'm loving the points that you're making and then moving on as well.
Yeah.
I'm saying like,
Still being
you're making a
professional.
lot of really good points. I think we could I usually say, I think we could talk for hours, but I don't want to keep you here. I was like, I can't. I was like, I got things to do. You do
Yeah.
too. I was like, I can't keep you here that long.
Yeah.
So usually it's like, I understand that we agree and I understand this would be a great conversation, but this isn't the time or place for it.
Yeah. Kate Ham, we've been at this for almost 30 minutes. This happens to us every podcast. We're gonna the editing is gonna be brutal.
We're going to be
Okay.
brutal. We're recording this too so it can go audio. But okay, so let's talk about with our coworkers real fast.
Yeah. No, we can take time, whatever.
Yeah, we're adults. We can do whatever. Okay, so I work in a workplace where the political views of a majority are not the same as mine.
Hmm.
And I do have some people that we have some similar ideals with, but they they support a political candidate that I don't necessarily support.
Okay.
So I don't want to come out and say all these things because it's hard, but so I've had some interesting conversations at work.
Yeah.
So I'm really glad that we can kind of do that here too and talk about how to talk about it with your coworkers because that's truly the place where you're spending the most time. So the most opportunity for conversation is going to pop up.
Yeah.
So
So
have
like
you?
off the top, like freedom of speech, like it really isn't a thing in the workplace unless you work for the government. So like you can be fired for the things that you say at work.
Mhm.
So that's definitely a concern.
Yeah, so I think it's always keeping it civil.
Yeah.
Um, and I think making sure that you're always very aware that a person only knows as much as they wanna know,
Mm-hmm.
and just like you know only as much as you wanna know, and you can know more and you can ignore it, or you can know less, and that's fine too, and
Yeah.
I think that's kind of that's one thing that's interesting. But let's talk about sexual harassment in politics real fast. So, if somebody is harassing you because of your politics, because of your gender, because of your beliefs, your gender, your gender identity, your sexuality, your sexual identity, anything of that nature, that
Mm-hmm.
is harassment. It's not having a conversation.
No, yeah,
So
and
if
it's not legal. So like even if you don't have an HR department, you still have like you may still have a claim. But
there's somebody
there's
there that will need to handle that.
you know how I did this audiobook about sexual harassment in the workplace? We're gonna have to do a
Mhm.
whole podcast on it because it was so good. But the main point she makes is like it's better to have a job than to have a good legal claim so that if you can defend yourself in the workplace and like really like just like shut down the situation with like reporting to superiors or documenting really meticulously and being like, this is what you've done. That's better than like having to go to court because that's a pain in the butt.
Mhm. Yeah, no, exactly, and using the proper channels, like, things were created to have proper channels in place. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and so always know if you feel like you are being harassed, and that
Yeah.
is in moments where you're being made fun of, where you are being, you're having things happen to you because of these items. So, like, let's say you're a doctor and let's say I'm the one with the different political beliefs than all the other doctors. And all of a sudden,
Mm-hmm.
my schedule, I'm always double booked. I don't have time. I never get a lunch break, all these things.
Yeah.
That's something that you need to talk to your HR department about.
Yeah.
Let's say you're not being respected and you're not being talked to well by people. It's always talking to that HR department. So,
Mm-hmm. We don't
that's a
have one of those. Do you have one?
we have a person that's in charge of staffing. So that would be the person that I would talk to.
Mm.
Do you have a person in charge of staffing at your office?
That's an excellent question. Is
Or
there
like
one?
you have somebody that you would go to if there is
Yeah.
concerns about anything. Mhm, yeah.
Yes.
So I was like, because I know sometimes it's different for doctors and technicians.
Mm-hmm.
So that can
Yeah.
be a little bit different. So uh then
Um, yeah, go. Sorry.
I also wanted to point out here, so that's very true, but also making sure that you are not the one harassing as well,
Yes.
because
Both
that
good.
can happen.
Yeah.
Mhm. Especially as a doctor, sometimes you think a technician's, like, agreeing with you, but in reality, it's harassment. So really
Yeah, there's power
check yourself.
dynamic. You're the powerful one.
Mhm.
And I mean, just in my life, I haven't been used to being the one that's got more power over another person. But like,
Mhm.
we kind of do at work.
Yeah. Yeah, and, like, people can be intimidated by you or, like, not wanna disappoint you, so they just agree.
Yeah, absolutely. Some ways we can advocate for our coworkers is like making sure that they have the opportunity to get registered to vote and take time off to vote on election
Mhm.
day, unless they're gonna like mail in ballot kind of thing.
Yeah.
And
No,
the
making sure they have
opportunity.
opportunities to go in to vote on election day.
Mhm.
Um, and then, like, if a line takes too long or something, they're not punished because that's
Yeah,
important.
it's a right.
Mhm. Yeah, it's super important.
Hmm.
I know I'm doing a mail-in ballot because, that's important. It's important to me to have a situation that no matter what happens, I have an opportunity to get my vote cast.
Yeah, and
Um,
mail it in as soon as possible.
mhm, yep, especially in more rural areas. I just did a webinar such as like this with Lieutenant Governor of Kansas about rural voting, and so if you're in a rural area, it can take 10 days round trip for that to
Hmm.
happen because it goes to the major city and then back out to your elections commissioner because it's based on the county is how
Hmm.
you're gonna do that. So, um, little things that you, this is my little plug.
Hmm.
Is, um, so it's vote411.org. That's where you go.
Woo!
So that's for all states everywhere. If you want to learn about your political candidates, if you want to register to get a mail-in ballot, register to vote. It is
Please. Please,
Vote
please, please.
411.org.
Vote.
Yep,
Vote, vote,
that's the
vote.
League of Women Voters. It's a nonpartisan organization that manages that. So let's talk about if you do get into an awkward conversation with a coworker.
How do you get out of it?
Well, I've been in them before. Well, not awkward, but just it kind of goes into a political conversation.
Yeah.
And we have very differing views on this,
Mhm.
on everything.
Yeah.
Except that we like each other. Like I really like my coworker that we get in. So I have one coworker that she and I talk freely about these things and have pretty similar ideas. So we have really good conversations, and I work to never make her feel insecure about her beliefs and always to make sure she feels good and supported as she talks to me. So when I talk to somebody that has an opposing viewpoint, I struggle. And so the things that I have learned to do, one,
Yeah.
come prepared, read, learn. Like if you are ready to have these conversations, if that's something that you do want to have in your office, you have to come prepared. You need to read books. You have to read online journals. You need to read newspapers, all different kinds of newspapers, even ones that you don't agree with. You need to read them. You need to know what they're saying. Because if you want to be an educated voter, first of all, like it's important to know what all sides are saying, all different things. So I think that's super important with everything to become educated. Two, I think it's to come with an open heart and an open mind. Know that they might have knowledge that you don't, or you might have knowledge that they don't, and it can't just be all or none of like you convince them or they convince you. Like it's a conversation, and it can help things, and you can grow and learn.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then you can always just say, you know what, let's get back to work.
Yeah. And I've several times I've had to say I'm so excited that I still get to work with you, but and I'm really glad that we had this conversation, but we're just gonna have to agree to disagree on this one, and that's okay. And say like I still am excited to work with you every day. And I will tell you, that was really hard. I felt very vulnerable in that moment to say, because I don't like to be like in a moment where it's like, no, I'm right and you must agree with me. That's my mentality a lot of times, and I don't like that mentality about me, but I feel sometimes it takes over. So saying I have to agree to disagree was like super hard.
Yeah.
It was super hard, but I feel like it helped because I came with a bunch of things whenever I have these conversations, is that I get to say, this is what I learned. This is how it informed my beliefs. And this is where it brought me to today. So I can kind of come along this timeline. So it's not just like, I believe this, and this is all what it is. And so it's more like, okay, this is what I learned. This is how I interpreted it. And that's what brought me to this thought.
Yeah.
That way they can say, and then I can ask them, where did you learn that? How did you arrive at that thought? What led you to that moment? It's because sometimes you hear a vulnerable moment in their lives. And that's important to know too, because they might have a moment that impacted them differently than the way it would have impacted you. And it's a great way to learn about somebody.
I think that reminds me of, can you believe how bad my lighting got now that the sun's gone down?
No, you look so good. You look so good.
Russet. It's like I'm in Tuscany.
My son it's not fully set yet. Also, I just can't get over OB. He just makes me happy all the time.
Yeah. Should we do action items and takeaways?
Oh, let me do. Okay, so one thing before we go.
Okay.
Is I created a list of things as deflectors. I want to share with you my list of deflectors. Okay, so one. That is an interesting point.
Oh, wait. Let's do where I say something crazy. Or
oh, yes, please. Please.
Wait, okay.
Go for
it. The earth is flat.
That's an interesting point.
My mother is a polar bear.
Tell me more. What brought you to that belief?
That one was perfect. This
feels like Mad Libs.
Mad Libs, yes.
Okay, your turn.
Milk is the greatest possible soda.
That is interesting. Really good. That was a good one.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, go for it. This one I'm excited for.
I'm voting for my dog for president.
This is a place where we can agree to disagree. That was so good, but Gloria would be a fantastic president. I'm voting for her.
Be a tyrant.
Glow would just want us all to take naps all the time, and I'm not against that.
That's true.
She'd be
She
like,
loves
just stay
Karen.
home and curl up on my couch and like just give me the food that I want and hold me when I want you to. Be like, okay, deal.
Yeah.
Not mad about it. She'd probably be like, let people do what they want, whatever. Glow's great.
Yeah.
Okay, next one.
I think 3-year-olds should be allowed to drive.
That is some really great passion about that topic. I think you should bring that same passion to the polls this November.
I will, and I'll bring my toddler in his car.
Please don't.
Okay.
I don't want to die. I don't want to die today. They're not that tall. They're short. I call them little-legged people. I call them little-legged people because they're just little. Okay. Okay, last one.
Another one? Oh God, I gotta think of one. Chemistry is just another word for cooking.
From what I know, things like that are a little bit different, but I'm really glad that you brought that perspective to this conversation.
I've got my things stacked up on a chemistry books. Like I'm just drawing from things.
I mean, chemistry is cooking, and I really can't. Right. That is true. Okay, so takeaways and action items.
Okay, I'm going to take away a lot of these conversation deflectors, and I'm going to use them.
Because I've used them, and which is fine. I just have used them at work.
And my action item, I'm going to touch base with my boss and just see what the policy is for people who need to take time off to vote. Like, can they just take a little time? What's the deal?
Yeah. At a national level, I believe that there is no reason that an office cannot deny your day off request to go vote, or like your time off request to go vote. But they do not have to compensate you for that time, and they do not have to. And that if there is a tally system, there can be things that are against you. Like it can't be used against you, but it can't be used for you if you don't want it to. So, oh, hold on. I think I'm supposed to text him dinner. Sorry, I have to.
What are you doing?
I have to text Devin dinner. We're ordering dinner, and I forgot to tell him what I wanted, and he's picking it up right now. And if I don't, then I'm not eating.
Oh my gosh! Text him. I will sing a song.
Okay.
Da 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 da. What do you want? What are you having? Are you having Little Caesars? Because that sounds good.
Oh no, but that does sound good. I do love their crazy bread. I'm gonna get
fondue.
Again, would be fantastic, but it's Panera. Okay, I'm so sorry. I am so sorry. That was completely unprofessional. Usually we would cut that out. But we're live. We're live. This is real life, y'all.
Ordered Panera the other day, and we got home, and it was like I ordered it in a bread bowl, but it was just like 3 chunks of bread, just like 3 of the chunks of bread they give with a bread bowl. I think it was the end of the shift, and they were like, "This idiot's not going to notice until they get home," and they were right.
That's kind of a jerk move, though. Not okay. Would not get a favorable review from me on you. Okay. So action items, takeaways. So action items, you're talking to people. Takeaways, you're going to use those conversation deflectors in your office.
Yes.
Okay. Action items is I need to continue to be more informed and read the other side as I try to I don't actively pursue that, and that isn't cool.
Because you don't want to get brainwashed. Yes.
Yeah, and I just don't want to get it just angers me, and I don't like to be angry.
Yeah.
2, so that's my action item. My takeaway is I love the teeth together. Also, that's probably an action item. Takeaway is just continually finding ways to be a person that is empowering others to feel supported in their thoughts, and be able to help guide them to be able to understand and fully be aware of their beliefs. That was a long-winded answer.
No, that's good. And I think I like the I don't care how you vote, just vote. I like
Mhm.
that a lot.
Yeah. So
Because
let's
like
say you're
really, it's
inspired. Yeah, let's say you're inspired by this conversation and you're like, "Oh my gosh, I need to get involved politically with my community." Great, I'm down. So you could always join your local or county Democrat or Republican society. Great, love that. 2, you can always work as an election official. This year, oh my gosh, do they need election officials more than ever? I'm blinking a lot about this. Um,
especially young people.
yes, because there's a lot of people that traditionally serve as election workers that are at risk.
Yeah.
And
Well,
so, it is important that that if you are a young person that can do it, it has to be in Kansas at 16 or older, so that's fantastic. So if you know anybody for November 3rd, I keep getting it last time was November 4th, this year is November 3rd. And so November 3rd, we really need election workers super bad. 2, well, 3, I guess. You could always join a nonpartisan organization. There are a ton. My favorite and one that I'm actively involved in on the board is League of Women Voters. So we're celebrating 100 years as the women right to vote. So women go out and vote because we've been able to vote for 100 years, which is also crazy short because white men have been able to vote for 244 years. So we're not even halfway yet.
Yeah.
Which is insane. I
And you
so I want
always involved with the AOA.
Yes, that was my next one is get involved with the AOA. There are city organizations or like area organizations, then there's state, there's national, there's area like SECO and GWECO, and I don't know what we are here in the Midwest.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know what we are, but get involved, do things. I was super bummed that it didn't happen in DC this year, but it'll happen. But
yeah,
I think
we did it, Kate.
We did it. I have a sleeping cat next to me, so I think we did well. Because if she fell asleep, she was soothed by our voices.
Until next time.
Until next time. Bye.